Isaac called Jacob, blessed him, and commanded him, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel your mother's father. Take a wife from there, from the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you, and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be a company of peoples, and give you the blessing of Abraham, to you and to your seed with you, that you may inherit the land where you travel, which God gave to Abraham. Isaac sent Jacob away. He went to Padan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel the Syrian, Rebekah's brother, Jacob's and Esau's mother. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take him a wife from there, and that as he blessed him he gave him a charge, saying, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and was gone to Padan Aram. Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan didn't please Isaac his father. Esau went to Ishmael, and took, besides the wives that he had, Mahalath the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife. Jacob went out from Beersheba, and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place, and stayed there all night, because the sun had set. He took one of the stones of the place, and put it under his head, and lay down in that place to sleep. He dreamed. Behold, a stairway set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to the heaven. Behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. Behold, the Lord stood above it, and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon you lie, to you I will give it, and to your seed. Your seed will be as the dust of the earth, and you will spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. In you and in your seed will all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you again into this land, for I will not leave you until I have done that which I have spoken of to you. Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. He was afraid, and said, How dreadful is this place! This is none other than God's house, and this is the gate of heaven. Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put under his head, and set it up for a pillar, and poured oil on the top of it. He called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of the city was Luz at the first. Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, and the Lord will be my God, then this stone which I have set up for a pillar will be God's house. Of all that you give me I will surely give the tenth to you. Then Jacob went on his journey, and came to the land of the children of the east. He looked, and behold, a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying there by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks. The stone on the well's mouth was great. There all the flocks were gathered. They rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again on the well's mouth in his place. Jacob said to them, My relatives, where are you from? They said, We are from Haran. He said to them, Do you know Laban the son of Nahor? They said, We know him. He said to them, Is it well with him? They said, It is well. See, Rachel his daughter is coming with the sheep. He said, Behold, it is still the middle of the day, not time to gather the cattle together. Water the sheep, and go and feed them. They said, We can't until all the flocks are gathered together, and they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. While he was yet speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. It happened, when Jacob saw Rachel the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. She ran and told her father. It happened, when Laban heard the news of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet Jacob, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban all these things. Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. He lived with him for a month. Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my brother, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what will your wages be?" Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. Jacob loved Rachel. He said, "I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. They seemed to him but a few days for the love he had for her. Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in to her." Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. It happened in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him. He went in to her. Laban gave Zilpah his handmaid to his daughter Leah for a handmaid. It happened in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. He said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Didn't I serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me?" Laban said, "It is not done so in our place to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill the week of this one, and we will give you the other also for the service with which you will serve me yet another 7 years." Jacob did so and fulfilled her week. He gave him Rachel his daughter as wife. Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid, to be her handmaid. He went in also to Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet another 7 years. The Lord saw that Leah was hated, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son, and she named him Reuben. For she said, "Because the Lord has looked at my affliction, for now my husband will love me." She conceived again and bare a son, and said, "Because the Lord has heard that I am hated, he has therefore given me this son also." She named him Simeon. She conceived again and bare a son, and said, "Now this time will my husband be joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. She conceived again and bare a son. She said, "This time will I praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I will die." Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in God's place, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" She said, "Behold my maid Bilhah. Go in to her, that she may bear on my knees, and I also may obtain children by her." She gave him Bilhah her handmaid as wife, and Jacob went in to her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Rachel said, "God has judged me, and has also heard my voice, and has given me a son." Therefore she called his name Dan. Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. Rachel said, "With mighty wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and have prevailed." She named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had finished bearing, she took Zilpah her handmaid, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Jacob a son. Leah said, "How fortunate!" She named him Gad. Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Jacob a second son. Leah said, "Happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy." She named him Asher. Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." She said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also?" Rachel said, "Therefore he will lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes." Jacob came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, "You must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes." He lay with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a 5th son. Leah said, "God has given me my hire, because I gave my handmaid to my husband." She named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a 6th son to Jacob. Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good dowry. Now my husband will live with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. She named him Zebulun. Afterwards she bore a daughter, and named her Dinah. God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived, bore a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. She named him Joseph, saying, May the Lord add another son to me. It happened when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away that I may go to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you know my service with which I have served you. Laban said to him, If now I have found favor in your eyes, stay here, for I have divined that the Lord has blessed me for your sake. He said, Appoint me your wages, and I will give it. He said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your cattle have fared with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and it is increased to a multitude. The Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. Now when will I provide for my own house also? He said, What shall I give you? Jacob said, You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed your flock and keep it. I will pass through all your flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted one, and every black one among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. This will be my hire. So my righteousness will answer for me hereafter when you come concerning my hire that is before you. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the sheep, that might be with me will be counted stolen. Laban said, Behold, I desire it to be according to your word. That day he removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. He set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Jacob took to himself rods of fresh poplar, almond, plane tree, peeled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. He set the rods which he had peeled opposite the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. They conceived when they came to drink. The flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the streaked, and all the black in the flock of Laban, and he put his own droves apart, and didn't put them into Laban's flock. It happened, whenever the stronger of the flock conceived, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flock were feeble, he didn't put them in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. The man increased exceedingly, and had large flocks, maidservants and menservants, and camels and donkeys. He heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's. From that which was our father's has he gotten all his wealth. Jacob saw the expression on Laban's face, and behold, it was not toward him as before. The Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I see the expression on your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all of my strength. Your father has deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God didn't allow him to hurt me. If he said this, the speckled will be your wages, then all the flock bore speckled. If he said this, the streaked will be your wages, then all the flock bore streaked. Thus God has taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. It happened at the time that the flock conceived that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the male goats which leaped on the flock were streaked, speckled, and grizzled. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. He said, Now lift up your eyes, and behold, all the male goats which leap on the flock are streaked, speckled, and grizzled, for I have seen all that Laban does to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now arise, get out from this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah answered him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Aren't we accounted by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and has also quite devoured our money. For all the riches which God has taken away from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do." Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives on the camels, and he carried away all his cattle, and all his substance which he had gathered, the cattle of his getting, which he had gathered in Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father to the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole the teraphim that were her father's. Jacob deceived Laban the Syrian, and that he didn't tell him that he was running away. So he fled with all that he had. He rose up, passed over the river, and set his face toward the mountain of Gilead. Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. He took his relatives with him, and pursued him after 7 days' journey. He overtook him in the mountain of Gilead. God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream of the night, and said to him, "Take heed to yourself that you don't speak to Jacob either good or bad." Laban caught up with Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban with his relatives encamped in the mountain of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have deceived me, and carried away my daughters like captives of the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and didn't tell me, that I might have sent you away with mirth, and with songs, with tambourine, and with harp, and didn't allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Now have you done foolishly. It is in the power of my hand to hurt you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Take heed to yourself that you don't speak to Jacob either good or bad.' Now you want to be gone, because you longed after your father's house. But why have you stolen my gods?" Jacob answered Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I said, 'Lest you should take your daughters from me by force. With whoever you find your gods, he shall not live. Before our relatives, discern what is yours with me, and take it.' For Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen them." Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the 2 maidservants, but he didn't find them. He went out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the teraphim, put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. Laban felt all about the tent, but didn't find them. She said to her father, "Don't let my lord be angry that I can't rise up before you, for the manner of woman is on me." He searched, but didn't find the teraphim. Jacob was angry and argued with Laban. Jacob answered Laban, "What is my trespass? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued after me? Now that you have felt around in all my stuff, what have you found of all your household stuff? Set it here before my relatives and your relatives, that they may judge between us 2. These 20 years have I been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not cast their young, and I haven't eaten the rams of your flocks. That which was torn of animals I didn't bring to you. I bore the loss of it. Of my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years have I been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night." Laban answered Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. And what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? Now come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be for a witness between me and you." Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. Jacob said to his relatives, "Gather stones." They took stones and made a heap. They ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. Laban said, "This heap is witness between me and you this day." Therefore it was named Galeed and Mizpah, for he said, "The Lord watch between me and you when we are absent from one another. If you will afflict my daughters, and if you will take wives beside my daughters, no man is with us. Behold, God is witness between me and you." Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap, and see the pillar which I have set between me and you. May this heap be a witness, and the pillar be a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and that you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham, and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." Then Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Jacob offered a sacrifice in the mountain, and called his relatives to eat bread. They ate bread and stayed all night in the mountain. Early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. Laban departed and returned to his place. Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When he saw them, Jacob said, "This is God's host." He called the name of that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers in front of him to Esau his brother, to the land of Seir, the field of Edom. He commanded them, saying, "This is what you shall tell my lord Esau. This is what your servant Jacob says. I have lived as a foreigner with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, men servants and maid servants. I have sent to tell my lord, that I may find favor in your sight." The messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau. Not only that, but he comes to meet you, and 400 men with him." Then Jacob was greatly afraid and was distressed, and he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 companies, and he said, "If Esau comes to the one company and strikes it, then the company which is left will escape." Jacob said, "God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, 'Return to your country and to your relatives, and I will do you good,' I am not worthy of the least of all the loving kindnesses and of all the truth which you have shown to your servant. For with just my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I have become 2 companies. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and strike me, and the mothers with the children. You said, 'I will surely do you good, and make your seed as the sand of the sea, which can't be numbered because there are so many.'" He lodged there that night, and took from that which he had with him a present for Esau his brother, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels and their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 she-donkeys, and 10 foals. He delivered them into the hands of his servants, every herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put a space between herd and herd." He commanded the foremost, saying, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, 'Whose are you? Where are you going? Whose are these before you?' Then you shall say, 'They are your servant Jacob's. It is a present sent to my lord Esau. Behold, he also is behind us.'" He commanded also the second and the third, and all that followed the herd, saying, "This is how you shall speak to Esau when you find him. You shall say, 'Not only that, but behold, your servant Jacob is behind us.' For he said, 'I will appease him with the present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me.' So the present passed over before him, and he lodged himself that night in the camp. He rose up that night and took his 2 wives, and his 2 handmaids, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them over the stream, and sent over that which he had. Jacob was left alone, and wrestled with a man there until the breaking of the day. When he saw that he didn't prevail against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was strained as he wrestled. The man said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." Jacob said, "I won't let you go unless you bless me." He said to him, "What is your name?" He said, "Jacob." He said, "Your name will no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have fought with God and with men, and have prevailed." Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." He said, "Why is it that you ask what my name is?" He blessed him there. Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for he said, "I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." The sun rose on him as he passed over Peniel, and he limped because of his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel don't eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the hollow of the thigh to this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew of the hip. Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and with him 400 men. He divided the children between Leah, Rachel, and to the 2 handmaids. He put the handmaids and their children in front, Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph at the rear. He himself passed over in front of them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. Esau ran to meet him, embraced him, fell on his neck, kissed him, and they wept. He lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children, and said, "Who are these with you?" He said, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the handmaids came near with their children, and they bowed themselves. Leah also and her children came near and bowed themselves. After them, Joseph came near with Rachel, and they bowed themselves. Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" Jacob said, "To find favor in the sight of my Lord." Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Let that which you have be yours." Jacob said, "Please, no. If I have now found favor in your sight, then receive my present at my hand, because I have seen your face, as one sees the face of God, and you are pleased with me. Please take the gift that I brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." He urged him, and he took it. Esau said, "Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before you." Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that the flocks and herds with me have their young, and if they overdrive them one day, all the flocks will die. Please let my Lord pass over before his servant, and I will lead on gently, according to the pace of the cattle that are before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord to Seir." Esau said, "Let me now leave with you some of the folk who are with me." He said, "Why? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. Jacob traveled to Succoth, and built himself a house, and made shelters for his cattle. Therefore the name of that place is called Succoth. Jacob came in peace to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram, and encamped before the city. He bought the parcel of ground where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. He erected an altar there and called it El Elohe Israel.